ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Smokin Tabacco Show. My name is Matt Tobacco from SmokinTabacco.com, and I am joined once again by the beautiful Smokin Nicole. And Jonathan Carney is sitting absent this week, but he's here in spirit as always. Tonight we have a very special guest with us. We have the beautiful hostess with the mostess, Cynthia Gonzales. She's a woman of many hats, and we're going to let her kind of get into all the different things that she does. But Cynthia, welcome to the show. It is such an honor to have you here.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the invite. And like I had written before, besides thanking you for the invite, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share my passion with the cigar community and with your followers. I've been admiring you guys from the far.
Oh, well, thank you for following us as well. It's, we're having a lot of fun over here, and I reached out to you because I noticed that you do a lot of different things, and we've talked a little bit. I know that you're in the cigar industry. I know that you do a lot of drinks and cocktails, and you do a lot with rum and stuff like that. I thought that was really interesting. You had talked about making a cocktail and stuff like that. I've seen you all over the place. A woman having a great time. Another sister of the leaf.
Yes.
Fellow sister of the leaf to Smokin Nicole.
We always need more.
And I promised Nicole that we would have more sisters of the leaf on the show. So I thought you'd be a great fit. I thought you'd be a lot of fun. So I was more than happy to send you the invite. So thank you for coming on with us. Now I don't believe you are smoking tonight with us, but
I will.
Oh, you will? Oh, okay. Well, what are you going to smoke?
I have to, yes, most definitely. Getting myself ready here.
Well, while you do that, I'm just going to do our quick intro for what we're smoking. I am smoking the Undercrown Maduro. Doing pretty well with it, so you can head over there, check them out, and order your cigars from them. That's one of our shops of choice, right here in our backyard. So we're really happy to have them on board with us. Cynthia, so what are you going to smoke tonight?
Well, it's a little bit hard because I have great cigars here in front of me. I decided to just go ahead and showcase the ones that I'm representing.
Okay.
Do that shameless plug-in. So I'm going to start with the Casa de Sueños Fantasia, which is this one right here.
Beautiful cigar.
Yeah. Yes.
I don't think you and I have had that cigar yet.
No, we haven't.
Yeah, so they are in California, but these cigars are made and rolled. They're rolled in Santo Domingo. So actually, like I was saying offline, just coincidentally, by chance, the box just arrived like less than an hour ago.
Wow.
So
they're fresh.
It made it right in time for the presentation, yes. But that's the one that I'm going to start with during our show. But I also have Karen Burgers. I announced that I'm also representing Karen Burger, K by Karen Burger, and her line of her late husband, Don Kiki. So this is a sample of the presentation of her Connecticut Robusto. We had the Maduro Habano and the Don Kiki Platinum and Gold label. It's the ones that we promote a lot, but the line is much more bigger than this. And we had Don Rafa Cigars. The owner is from Puerto Rico. The cigars are rolled in Nicaragua, and this one is featuring their Boss Press Habano.
Oh, nice.
But they have the Maduro, and they have a newly launched Churchill.
I like the box.
Sorry?
I said I like the box on that one. The background on the box.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nicole's always looking out for the really nicer packagings too. So that means it's high on her list.
It has to look good in the humidor too.
It's all about presentation. I mean, I to an extent, I guess. So yeah, so from what I understand, so you, like you said, you with Karen Berger. I know you have some of your own stuff you have going on. So where shall we begin, Nicole? Where shall we begin? Because I know, like we said, Cynthia is the hostess with the mostest. So there's a lot to talk about with her. Why don't we start off? We'll start off easy. So how long have you been smoking cigars, and how did you get into that?
I've been smoking cigars since I was 21 years old. But I fell in love with the smell of the tobacco when I was 8 years old, around that age.
Wow.
So my dad had a boss. He was Cuban, and he smoked the pipe, and occasionally smoked tobacco, cigar, but usually he smoked pipe. And nobody at home smoked anything. So that was like, be exposed to that was shocking, but at the same time, I fell in love with the smell. It's something that caught my attention. It intrigued me. So much that when I turned 21 years old, I said, oh, I know what I want for my birthday. I'm of age. I don't have to ask anyone. I'm going straight to the tobacco shop. So there was one at the time at the lobby at the Hotel San Juan in Isla Verde here in Puerto Rico. So I just walked in. I remember it was a Davidoff. I don't remember what it was, what I smoked at that time. And for all these years, I didn't even truly pay attention to what was it that I was smoking. I didn't take the time to teach myself or learn what was it about. It was just the enjoyment of smoking a cigar, and that was it for the most part of all these years. So I kept it separate. It was something that was separate from what I was learning into the spirits. So we'll talk about that in a little bit, how it came together, but that's how old I was when I actually legally started smoking a cigar at 21 years old.
Yeah, that's such an excellent story, and it's one of those stories of like the romance of the cigars, and I love those stories too. I mean, I remember I started around 21 as well when I first started smoking cigars. Actually, I was a little bit older, maybe like 22 or so when I really first tried it and got into it. But it's one of those things where, I always liked the smell of it. I never really smoked. I came from a non-smoking household, so it wasn't something that was really promoted in my house, or no one was really for it either. But I got into it socially with friends, and I really liked it, and then I just became so enamored with it that I had to know more and try more and stuff like that. And when I met Nicole, and like the first time we talked, I told her like how involved I was in the cigar community, and she was like, I have to try it, and I was like, all right. And I figured she was just trying to be polite, but like the first time we got together, I had a cigar, and I let her try it, and she liked it, and now she has her own cabinet full of cigars, and so
that's how it works.
She got pulled into it just as easily. So, but no, that's awesome, and it's always nice to not only add more people to the community, but like we were saying before, it's really nice to have another sister of the leaf in the community too. And so, and there's more and more of those, as we've talked about before. There's so many more women getting involved in cigars, and it's a really good thing. It's diversifying the group, and it's just making it so much bigger and more fun. So let's start with Karen Berger then. How long have you been representing? How long have you been representing Karen Berger for?
No, I just started in April, the
Okay.
1st of April. Yeah. So me representing cigar brands, it just recently started. And Mujeres y Humos, my platform of Mujeres y Humos started in August 10th of 2020.
Okay.
So yeah, my journey venture of the cigar world started, it hasn't been a year. And I'm already representing branded cigars. So it's something that has been evolving organically, and wasn't something that I planned out from the beginning, saying, "Oh, I'm gonna open an account and on Instagram, and this is what I want to accomplish." No, it was very, very simple. The reasons why I opened an account on Instagram, and it was just so I didn't have to put, like my page on Hostess with the Mostess is all about spirits and cocktails.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to impose on my followers about tobacco, smoking cigars, if 11,000 of the followers, approximately, maybe 10% of them smoke cigars, right?
Right.
So I decided to open a separate account so I can, post about cigars and pairing with cocktails and things like that. Like have something separate. So from there, it's where we are today. I didn't have a logo at the time or nothing. That came later, a couple months later. The owner at the Casa de Montecristo and the crew over there, they were like, "Cynthia, you should really, look into this seriously, organize yourself, create a logo, do something. We need something like this." I'm like, "Okay, yes, you can do events. Let's do this." I'm like, "Okay." So I put my hat on, started, thinking about it seriously, and then I started with the logo and the design. And I was doing at the time my interviews, my podcast interviews with Savvy.co, hostess with the Moses, and I created a special segment, special editions called Mujeres Entre Humos at that time, which is now Mujeres y Humos, interviewing Sisters of the Leaf.
Mm-hmm.
So, and doing the same setup, choosing already beforehand a cigar that we were gonna share and talk about, the cocktail that we're gonna pair with. We will do the cocktail live, like we're gonna do shortly.
Yep.
And it was, I do miss doing those podcasts. I still could do them. It's just I don't have enough time. You know already how much time it takes to set everything up, just on interviews alone, prepping, and so forth. So adding that already, or continuing to do that with what I'm already doing the traveling, it's getting a little bit more complicated. Yeah. But yeah, that's how it actually started with the cigar brands. Karen Burgers, the first one. Then the Don Rafa Cigars, and now Casa de Sueños. So, and the reason why I ventured into representing some boutique cigars on my platform is because my platform is about cigar cocktail pairing events. So sometimes they will ask me, "Hey, what would you recommend?" Like, wait a minute, I should then have on my platform cigars that I enjoy, that I believe in, that I would like to help, bring forward. So why don't I have them on my line already, something to offer, right? So make things easier. A lot of times these events are done by recommendation. They want your input. They want you to do everything. So if I'm already having a few cocktails paired with these cigars, then why not? And so that's how I came about having these lines on my portfolio.
I think that's your whole your approach with cocktails and cigars and pairing them together. I find very, very interesting, and it's nice to see someone who's actually really going out of their way to do that specifically. I mean, that's one of the things. I mean, when you ask someone, what pairs well with a cigar, 9 times out of 10 they're talking about some kind of cocktail or just any kind of alcoholic beverage, whether it's a cocktail or even it's just something that's just straight up like a whiskey or a rum or a tequila. And it's nice to see you doing what you do. It's very refreshing. What would you say, in your personal taste, and I know this could vary from cigar to cigar, but on average, what is your favorite thing that you like to, in terms of drink wise or a cocktail? What is your favorite thing to pair with a cigar, most of the time?
Yes. Most of the times when I go out, I usually ask for a old fashioned, a
Hmm.
rum old fashioned. But
Hmm.
the rum old fashioned will have chocolate bitters and it will have shaved cocoa
Ooh.
Ooh, that
on
sounds
top.
really good.
Yeah. So it's a beautiful presentation. I mean, it's one of my favorite cocktails to have when I'm at the cigar lounge enjoying my cigars. That's one, definitely. And then the second will be a Martinez. They
Really
do
nice.
a, yeah. And actually, the bartender at Casa de Montecristo, he does his own riff on a Martinez that he has modified so we can enjoy it with our cigars. So it's one of his own take on the cocktail.
And how long have you been doing cocktails for, like, on your own, creating stuff and making stuff and just even just at your own leisure before you were doing events and stuff? How long were you, like, really into that for?
Since I would say 2014, 15, 2014, 15. Um, Something simple as doing frozen mangoritas at home.
Hmm.
That was something that I learned and perfected it. And different, yeah, I mean, it's refreshing, it's delicious. You get those frozen mango chunks and the rest that you can add besides tequila and the sour, right? But you
Right.
can do so many things, variations with it to adjust it to your liking, and it's a crowd pleaser. So that's one that I was always doing and stuff. But it wasn't until 2017 that I attended a the world class competition here in Puerto Rico. They were promoting it a lot at different bars on Facebook and such. I was like, what is that? What's that all about? I didn't know. So I just went to one and I fell in love. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. This is art. Uh, everything that they were doing, and there were bartenders from different parts of the world attending these competitions, and it just captured me completely. And I started following the whole industry and going to the I was gonna say cigar, the cocktail bars, and just take pictures with my cell phone, for record keeping and stuff like that. Um, and then when I moved to Dallas, Texas, at the end of 2017, I already had been doing it for almost a year. And I would do a list of the bars that I wanted to visit every single day. So I worked in downtown Dallas. I get off from work at 4:30 and I will go to one or two, especially during their happy hours,
Of
and
course.
take pictures and try and engage with the bartender and things like that. And little by little, that's how I got into the industry in Dallas, Texas. Um, and it just took from there. I mean, from there, doing TV segments at Telemundo for the Dallas channel, hosting Texas Live, and right in Dallas as well, hosting El Cinco de Mayo and being interviewed and such, and being invited, most importantly, to events, right? Getting the opportunity to try the new spirit that is launched in the industry, and you get to be the first ones to try it. attend the classes by Diageo or Pinard Ricard.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody on the class are bartenders. I was the only cocktail blogger taking notes at 10 a.m. and tasting spirits for 3 hours. But those are the things that are important. The way that I saw it was I need to know the same that the bartender knows or more. Because there's no way I can sit down, write a content, post a picture if I don't know what entailed to do that cocktail. So I went further ahead during the shutdown. What are you to do with your time? There's no event. Everything is closed. I'm like, what type of content am I going to be creating here? So I did have, and I still have, I had a bigger bar back in Dallas than what I have right here behind me. And I was like, you know what? Let me start making some cocktails at home. Let me explore things that I heard and I like, but I don't know how they make them. So I taught myself, well, I want to know what is a an oleo shrub. I want to know what is a reduction of a simple syrup. I want to learn what is to do a clarification or fat washing. So every day I will make a list, what the cocktail was going to be, the technique. I will teach myself, follow the instructions, do it 1 and 2 and 3 times until it came out right. And then I will do the photo shoot with the bottle, the whole thing, and start posting. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I will start posting on Facebook. 5 o'clock cocktail time. Here's the cocktail today. But that gave me something to do on a daily basis. I was looking forward to that. But through that, I learned more about my palate as well. What is it that I like? Oh, wow, I didn't know that you could do it this way. Let me try with this spirit. So it's all about being proactive. It's not only about being passionate about what you love doing, it's also take the time to learn, to educate yourself. And if you do it yourself, then more power to you. That exactly helped me to understand even more about the cigars. So it's like cooking. When you're in the kitchen, you know what oregano or rosemary or basil smells like and will taste like. So when you're thinking about putting together a dish, you already have an idea what is it that you want to put together, what will make sense without having to be tasting all the time because it's in your memory. Mm-hmm. The same thing with spirits. You know which vodka, if it's grain or what have you, if it's mezcal, if the mezcal is tobalá or tepestate, or the spirit, if it's whiskey, if it's malt, if it's Scotch whiskey, whatever the case might be. If you already had taught your palate which spirits and how they behave, right? Then when you're smoking a cigar for the first time and you're getting all these nuances and all this texture in your smoke and the smell and everything, the aroma, you go like, oh, wait a minute, I know what will pair perfectly with this. Oh, let me try with this other spirit. And that's how I start creating these cocktails, signature cocktails to be paired straight directly with that specific cigar because of that. That's how I can explain it to you so you can understand my method, how I process that in my brain, so to speak.
Yeah, no, it totally made a lot of sense. I mean, that's a very nice in-depth explanation. But the one thing I gathered out of that was, I mean, any party where Cynthia's making the drinks, that's where you have to be.
That's the party you have to be at.
Oh, yeah. It doesn't sound like you'll be disappointed with any drink that she makes you. I've been disappointed at events sometimes, and bartenders, you ask them for not even really like uncommon or really complicated drinks, but you'll ask them for something maybe that's not on the usual, but it's not too far out there, and they're like, oh, I don't know what that is. And I find that when you have to tell the bartender what to make, it's kind of like, in my experience, a lot of times I go into it like, I don't know. It sounds like they don't make this. They don't normally make it. Are they going to have all the right ingredients? Is it going to come out like it normally should? But it sounds like Cynthia really takes the time to
It sounds like
experiment.
you have it down to a T, Cynthia. And, any event where you're pairing a cigar, I would trust you to pair a cigar to a drink as well. A lot of places, we get into a cycle. I get into a cycle of going to my local lounge. I grab a cigar I sometimes try new things, but I'd be more willing if you said, oh, here's your favorite drink, or here's a drink I know you're going to like. Try this new cigar with it and see what you think. To go with the pairing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, in my experience, there's some, what I drink, I usually drink mostly whiskeys, and I drink a lot of tequilas. Tequila is more newer for me, but it's something I've been heavily getting into. So I know with whiskeys I'm really good with. I know, we predominantly drink a lot of bourbons, sometimes scotch, and then like very rarely like other kinds of whiskeys like Japanese or something like that. But for the most part, it's bourbon. So I know, depending on which bottle I really want to drink, what cigar I'm probably going to smoke with that particular bourbon. And I'm starting to kind of get that with tequila now, because I'm starting to discover different tequilas, and whether it's reposados or añejos, blancos, whatever it is. There's certain cigars that I have found that I like better with certain tequilas, and whatever. But it sounds like with you almost taking it to the next level. It's you're finding specific cocktails that go with cigars, and you're kind of covering all of the spirits now. I mean, you mentioned vodka. I mean, that's not one that I drink myself a lot. I don't think Nicole really drinks a lot of vodka.
It's the one thing I want. Vodka and gin.
Yeah, I mean, not that they're bad. No. It's just that's not something we drink, and I don't know many people who do drink them with cigars. However, I would say, I guess, with the right cocktail or the right, particular spirit with the right cigar, any pairing is possible, which is really, really important to know. How many would you say so far? Roughly, it doesn't have to be like dead on. This is just a total random fire question. About how many different recipes do you think that you have either learned or come up with that you have in your repertoire, or your book of cocktails and drinks that you make? Ballpark.
Well,
I like questions like these. They make people think.
If I was to guesstimate, I would say in the 40s.
Okay.
I mean, that's still a lot.
That is a lot.
I mean, I've always I don't do it every day, but I've had a pretty good success with making drinks myself. My biggest thing is always, looking it up how it's traditionally made, and always trying to use fresh ingredients. I'm not a big fan of using any of the pre-made, like when it comes to like a margarita or those kinds of drinks. I don't like to just like buy the mixes and then just pour the liquor into it and be done. I always try, if I can, to use fresh ingredients and stuff like that, and that's how I've always really enjoyed.
Now, we did get a question in the audience who said, Cynthia, do you have a recipe book? And that comes from Larry Frank.
That's a great question.
A recipe book?
Yes. Do you have one? You do?
So actually, that's interesting that question came up, because I already been approached, been asked, hey, do you have, actually I do have a website where I'm going to be posting some recipes up, but to have an actual, like a referral, like a book specifically to enjoy with cigars, yes, I've been approached about that. And so that's something that I will have to really think seriously about putting together. So I don't have one right now, but be on the lookout.
Okay.
That could be.
I'd be interested in that.
That could be made, definitely. I mean, if you're gonna be going to a website every time that you need a recipe, I mean, sometimes searching and stuff, that's fine. But it's also good to also have a book or referral. I mean, I have books up here. I don't know if you can see them.
Yep.
Right here, all those are cocktail books.
Wow.
Aperitifs. I have Death and Company book there. I have one that has 1001 cocktail recipes, tiki cocktail books, and you name it. Then plus the classes that I've attended that I make notes of, and I keep them as as reference.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So just so you can have something really easy is a Godfather. So you've heard the Godfather, which is usually made with whiskey, with
Yep.
Scotch,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And amaretto, di Sarano.
Right.
So I switched it up with rum.
That's
Ah.
So
an
equal
interesting
parts,
take. Yeah.
but we're rum.
Now,
It's almost similar, or the experience is something similar to an old fashioned.
so one of the things I have picked up on with you is that you obviously you favor rum pretty well. Is there any particular style of rum that you prefer the most? Whether it's a white rum, a spiced rum, a dark rum. Is there any rum in particular that you usually enjoy, or are they all kind of just they all kind of depend for you?
Yeah, it depends on the cocktail, but for the most part, I found myself gravitating towards añejos, like more aged. If I want to do a daiquiri, I can, usually you do a white rum, but you
Hmm.
don't have to, right? So I can do something like with a gold rum or an añejo. I actually did a cocktail to be paired with Don Rafa cigars, which is the Connecticut Churchill that just came out on the Latino Aficionado magazine feature. So I did a riff on a daiquiri. So what I did is your daiquiri is basically lime juice, the rum, and the simple syrup. That's your three ingredients for a daiquiri. So I used the Brugal 1888 as the base spirit, and the simple syrup was a honey, citron, ginger, green tea syrup. Um, so white ginger, I was on like I did it as a syrup, so you get the flavor of the ginger, but not the kick, the spiciness of it. Okay, so and I added white egg whites to give it some texture
Hmm.
and presentation, and that was the cocktail that I paired with that Connecticut Churchill.
Mm.
It's funny. I thought I heard you mention green tea a moment ago, and it's interesting. There's one thing that I had recently, or not really recently, but before the pandemic started, and I was going out more and going to bars and such. There was one thing that I came across that I had never heard of before. I never had it before, and I'm curious to know what you know about it, or if I assume you have, and that's the green tea shots at bars. And from what I understand, it's mostly like Jameson and green tea. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, but it sounds horrible.
It's something that like when someone showed me like, oh, you've never heard of that? I'm like, nope.
Yeah, they do with Jason. I've had those.
And
Um,
it wasn't
yeah,
really my cup of tea, but it seemed
yeah.
that with a lot of the younger people, it was all the rave.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Maybe the green tea makes them feel
And
better about drinking.
yeah,
Like,
It's the healthier
yeah.
yeah.
alternative. um, so Cynthia, you had mentioned that you were going to make a cocktail with us tonight. But before we do, I wanted to hit we have a news segment and a sports segment to do. We're going to start with our news segment first, which is brought to you by McAuliffe Cigars. Nicole's smoking the McAuliffe with us. Become an ambassador today with McAuliffe Cigars. Head over to McAuliffeCigars.com. Were you?
I don't know what happened on that screen, but
was I
sorry.
muted?
Yep.
How long was I muted for? I had a whole flow going.
I know.
How long was I muted for?
I don't know. Probably the screen switch.
Cynthia, how much of that did you hear, if you don't mind me asking?
I heard everything.
Oh, okay, good. So maybe I don't know. Maybe that was something else.
Yeah.
So anyway, like I was saying, I thought of Habanos being like, oh, we could use this technology to authenticate like the Cohibas and a lot of the other Cuban cigars that are world renowned and very popular that people often get as counterfeit, because there's such a huge, collection of counterfeit Cuban cigars out there. But interestingly enough, someone like Plasencia, who is a good brand, is using this technology, and I just found it to be very interesting. I'm curious to see how that spreads in the market, how it works for them. I think this will be a good way to kind of gauge its future with its success, and I think if it goes well with them, I think you'll see more and more brands really jumping on this, because not only, as I said, it'd be good to authenticate a cigar, especially some of these higher end cigars, Cuban cigars, Opus X, stuff like that you might worry about being counterfeit or not. But also, you can get some interesting information. It's very interactive, and it's just kind of another way that the cigar industry is, I would say, going a little bit more digital, a little bit more interactive, electronic, so to speak. So I'm really excited about this news, and I'm sure there's people out there who have so many things to say. If you want to read more about it, I'm not going to get into the whole article, but you can head over to smokintabacco.com and you can read that article. We have it posted everywhere on all of our pages. And you can read all about that, all the information surrounding that technology. So that's what we have for news this week. I thought it was pretty interesting. I was going to talk a little bit about TPE. We didn't go to TPE, obviously. We made the decision not to go, and we chose to travel other places instead. But we will be at the PCA trade show in July in Las Vegas. So we will be there, and after that show, we'll do a whole show synopsis of everything that we saw and encountered there. And maybe we'll touch on some TPE stuff later next week. But for now, that's all I'm going to say about that. And we're going to do our sports segment a little bit later, I think. But
okay.
I want to go back to Cynthia, because I'm just so intrigued with all of the things that she has to say. So Cynthia, you, as I said before, you said you were going to prepare a cocktail for us. Now, I was curious as to what cocktail you were going to make.
Well, I'm going to do the espresso martini.
Ooh. I think I've had one of those before.
It's not going to be made with vodka. It's going to be made with mezcal.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting. So I actually don't know much about mezcal. I mean, I know a little bit about it. I know what it is. It's not something I've really dabbled with yet. I've been more on the tequila side. Interesting question to ask you that maybe you can share with our viewers and anyone listening who maybe doesn't know. I think that a lot of times people get tequila and mezcal confused. What is the primary difference between the two?
Yeah. So tequila is mainly from one species of agave, which is known as the blue agave, right? So that's mainly where they do the tequila from. But then everything else under the spectrum of mezcal, there is, I think there's like almost a little bit over 200 species of agave for mezcal. So just so you can have an idea of what I'm talking about, just to pull these out as an example, you have tobala. It's one species that is used for mezcal. You have tepestate. The one that is most commonly used is espadín. Espadín is one species of agave, and is one that is mostly widely used on mezcal, but you have so many others. The variety it's big. The spectrum is big. And yes, each agave has its own profile. But the way that it's processed is they cook the piña, right? The cactus, the piña itself, cook it, and with a tajona, and they, So some are distilled in copper distilled or in clay distill and so forth, right? So distillation and the process comes into the play as well. So when you're thinking about using a mezcal, you have to go back to the basics. You have to taste the spirit first. You have to get acquainted with the spirit because maybe a certain agave will not set well, or it will not pair well to do with coffee, let's put it that way. So espadín is mostly used for a lot of the mezcal cocktails because it's so versatile. So that's one that I'm using on this cocktail for the espresso martini. Now, you can use tequila as well, okay? And actually, one thing that I've noticed when you use tequila instead of mezcal, when you use tequila and it comes together with the coffee itself, it brings some smokiness to the cocktail. So, and it's very interesting that the chemical, how they come together. It brings that smokiness to it. But the mezcal gives a different level of profile. Of course, you're gonna have a little bit of the hint of the smokiness on the cocktail, but it's just totally different. I mean, I don't know how else to be able to describe it.
Yeah.
But let's go ahead and do that. I'm gonna do, there's different recipes, but I'm gonna do like equal parts, 1 ounce each. So I'm gonna have 1 ounce of mezcal, 1 ounce of fresh espresso, which I have right here, and the coffee liqueur, and I'm gonna be using the XO Cafe Patron for this cocktail. And let me get the espadín.
Now, would you pair that cocktail with what you're smoking now?
I'm sorry?
Would you pair that cocktail with what you're smoking now?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Most definitely. I mean, it has coffee, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for the most part, we love to enjoy our cigars with coffee.
Mm-hmm.
So it's gonna be a winner, definitely. But I chose to do it with a mezcal because it's gonna give for a different experience, a smokiness and a little bit of that spiciness coming through. And this Fantasia Casa de Sueños is gonna bring forward all those flavors together. It's really nice. So we're gonna do, like I said, 1 ounce. I have everything here. One ounce of the mezcal. 1 ounce of the coffee liqueur, and I'm using the Patron because it's tequila based.
I haven't had that in so long. I should make a drink with it soon. Maybe we'll have to make that drink.
And then the 1 ounce of fresh espresso. We have our ice right here.
So someone asked as well, so Will asked, would the mezcal be sweeter?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you too well.
Sorry, I said would the mezcal be sweeter?
If I'm using the mezcal?
Yeah.
Yes. I'm using a espadín.
Okay.
Espadin, yeah, a mezcal. It could be any brand.
Yep.
Espadin.
Ooh, that looks good.
So here it is. I don't
Beautiful.
have the coffee bean for the garnish, but
That's okay. Looks beautiful.
so cheers.
Cheers. I'm going to cheers you with my wine. So,
Oh yeah, beautiful.
mm. So, aside from being the hostess with the mostess, uh, you also are a contributor writer for a magazine, correct?
Latino Aficionado magazine, yes.
Now, how long have you been doing that?
Since December.
Since
So
December.
I was approached late October if I was interested in becoming a contributor writer for the magazine, and I definitely said yes. And my first feature was on the December issue,
Hmm.
and I featured Zeno, the Zeno Platinum, yeah, on that magazine with a riff on a holiday eggnog that we call in Puerto Rico coquito.
Ooh.
Yes. So I did a riff on that, and that's what I paired it with, and did the photo shoot and everything, and wrote about that. Um, but one of the reasons why I accepted the opportunity first because I was in a way already doing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Creating, writing content on my Instagram account. And that's one of the reasons why they approached me.
Yeah.
So I could have a segment about, pairing with cigars and cocktails and such. But also, I did it because they gave me free reign to choose whichever cigar I want. I mean, I'm the one who decides the brand that I'm going to be featuring that month. I have free creativity, let's put it that way. So I saw it as an opportunity, being that it's the Latino Aficionado magazine, it's in Spanish. Um, give or have a platform for boutique cigars, especially that are owned by Latinos, because we have great, excellent cigars. We have the Plasencia, we have Oliva and Davidoff and so forth, right? But they have been written so much about.
Mm-hmm.
We are very, very familiarized with what they have to offer and what we should expect from them. But then there's so many others that are making great, great cigars. They're very passionate for what they're doing. They have a story to share, to tell. So I thought, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and do this because that will give me the opportunity not only to also, be out there and try them, but bring them aboard and have others to have the opportunity to see that there's something else out there that is worthy of trying and exploring.
I love that. Um, how do you feel, you're writing for this magazine. Do you write about other, other topics, or is it just the cigar pairing with drinks?
I can't, I don't know why, but I cannot hear your volume too. I'm gonna bring it up here a little bit.
That's okay. I was just wondering if you write just solely about cigars, and drink pairings for the magazine.
If I am so sorry. I don't know why, but I just
No,
cannot
that's
hear
okay.
you now.
Hold on just a minute. I'm going to try switching headsets. Is this better? Okay.
Yes, yes.
So I was just asking, do you solely write about cigars and the drink pairings for the magazine, or do you write about other topics?
No, it's focused on that. I I decide the angle in which I'm gonna present it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's just not, okay, so this month I'm gonna be talking about, okay, this cigar and this the cocktail and that's it. No, done. No.
Mm-hmm.
I give it angle. So because I already spoke to the owner, I heard their story, their background, why they did it, what brought them together to do this line, and so forth. So I bring some of that story into the mix so you can get an idea who they are without having to go into too much detail, but just give you a feeling for what is it and the reason why I'm presenting it to you. So like when I did the most recent one right now for the month of May for Don Rafa cigars, I brought it from an angle of it takes a village. It takes a village to actually bring a brand together. It's not only the owner or the blender, the master blender, which is a key ingredient, right? But it's also those hands that are putting these cigars together. Without them, you will not have a cigar. You can come up with thousands of ideas to blend and give the experience, but if you don't have capable hands to put these together, then you don't have a product. So, and then you have other people that are good in creating and marketing and selling the cigars. That's the other thing. You have to have someone that is charismatic, that is out there, that is good with the public, that will attract your attention, which the attention is very small. The window is very small, the opportunity. So you need to know exactly what to say, how to say it, to grab your attention, get that stick on your hand, and get you to smoke it. So
Absolutely.
not everybody can do that. I mean, either you have it or you don't. So for a brand to be able to at least get into these shelves and get into the mainstream, you have to have all these people, all these group of people behind you, next to you to make this happen. Alone, you cannot do it.
Absolutely. There are so many hands that go behind it. And we wouldn't have them if it wasn't for all these hands. What would you say that your favorite article has been that you've written so far?
Oh wow. I would say the one for the month of March because it was the month international. It was the Women's Month, and then March 8th was the International Women's International Day, which was the day that I chose to launch officially Mujeres y Humos, and I did the event at Casa de Montecristo in Old San Juan. And that was my favorite feature. I featured Karen Berger,
Hmm.
was the cigar that I featured. That's the one that I did with the white suit and the hat and
The beautiful photo.
yeah, and yes, exactly. And there was a reason behind all that. I mean, the white suit giving you that feel that the male side of it, but also the feminine side of having it a bit open, and then the hat. It was just giving that message about the fine line that we women are walking within this industry. So we had to balance, we had to be ladylike and woman and sophisticated and beautiful and all those elements, right? To catch the attention, but at the same time, you had to come forth and show how much you know, your knowledge to take you seriously, what's behind all that. So I had this idea of the concept of the pictures that I wanted, and these pictures, I produced them, that was back in January. It was December to January, and I already had them. For the issue of February, which is San Valentine's month, right?
Hmm.
That's the one that I chose, the Plasencia Robusto, because it came out on as number one, and with the black dress and the red backdrop. And then March was the Women's Month, with Karen Berger. And which better of her brand and her name to represent what that meant in the cigar industry. Then there's so many others, granted there are, but that she was the one that I had, and I already had interviewed her, so I felt comfortable sharing the story and putting it out there. And of course, now I'm representing her cigars as well. So it was just a very natural transition. It just came hand in hand, one after the other. So that would be one of my favorite features so far.
So I had to step away from it. We had a technical issue, but I heard everything that happened while I was gone. I saw the cocktail. It was great. That looked amazing. It looks so delicious. Look at that dark color on there. It really makes me wish I had one right now. What I wanted to ask you though was so since you've gotten into all of these things that you're doing, what would you say has been your biggest challenge?
It would have been a big challenge and ended up not being so. And I'll explain why. The traveling part. So even though that the pandemic has brought a lot of loss of life, which is very regrettable, it's impacted the whole industry, loss of employment and such. And I mean, it's been very, very challenging for all of us, right? One more than others, but it has in different levels. But on the flip side of it, I took advantage, to be honest, I took the advantage of the situation where the fares were so low that financially it was the great opportunity for me to be able to travel and jump on the plane on a weekend and go to a city quickly and do events. Under different circumstances, with the rates how they were before and starting a new business and being limited on financial funds to do this, it would have been a challenge because it takes money. I mean, you had this banner, then you had the t-shirts and the mugs and the business cards and the stickers, all this swag, and then paying for the luggage and the weight and traveling and the hotels and the Uber fees and the
we know.
It adds up. Exactly.
And as of recently, the rental car fees, they're through the roof right now. I mean,
I mean, all that adds up. So the situation as it was, paying $27 or $30 for each leg to go to different cities to do an event, I mean, it was something that it was attainable. I saw myself that, hey, I can do this. And because I could promote it and stay here in Puerto Rico, but it's easier and faster if you're able to travel and get and feature what is it that you're doing, because this is something that you have to experience. You have to live it. You have to experience it. So in January, I went to Pennsylvania, to PA. Shout out to the Caravan Company people and Beth. I did the event over there, and I went twice, actually. So the first time that I went, it was sponsored by Don Q Rum from Serrayes, which is our rum here in Puerto Rico. And they sponsored it. They gave swags and things to raffle, and the liquor, of course. And I did the cocktails to be paired with the cigars, with Protocol cigars, with the guys at Protocol High, Juan and Juan Cancel and Kevin.
Fun group over
watching.
There. Fun group over there.
Yes. And then I went back in March for the launch of Protocol's J Train, right, from Johnny Smoke's own cut. Mm-hmm. So I went for the launch of that, and I created a signature cocktail to be paired with the J Train cigar. And twice, not only I made cocktails, but I also cooked. Ooh. So if they were not coming for the cigar or the cocktail, they were coming for the food. So, but those are the things that it takes for you to engage with people so they can identify with you and understand where you're coming from and know your culture and what is that you're doing. And when they see it, they live it, they eat it, they drink it, they smoke it, then, oh, I understand what you're doing now. Oh, this is wonderful. How can I get you on my event or my cigar shop? And now I'm looking into going to Charlotte for a weekend event and so forth. The other thing that I decided to do was let me go to the cigar weeks. So I went to the Orlando Cigar Week event. So now I'm going to the Houston one next week, which I'm an ambassador for. And all this exposure, not only you're giving the opportunity to share what you're doing and your platform, you need exposure, but at the same time, you get to network, you get to know people, they get to know you, and it just opens so many doors. And it's an opportunity for me to also be an ambassador for Puerto Rico. They asked me too, how is Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria? How are you guys doing? Is it safe to travel over there? Like, yeah, it is safe to travel. A lot of people are traveling to Puerto Rico, especially during the pandemic, because traveling to Europe was pretty much a no-go, right? It was mainly banned. So people that have never traveled to Puerto Rico, they said, you know what? Let's go to Puerto Rico. We've never been over there, and it doesn't require a passport. So all those domestic flights have been coming into Puerto Rico. So
I didn't think about that.
That is how I relate to challenges. That would have been my biggest challenge, but I was able to make it work and overcome it because of the situation. So it's like these window of opportunities that you say, you have to do it. Either you do it or you do it. If you're not, it's just going to pass by and then you're going to regret it. I mean, I just said, no, I'm going to do it. And everybody's like, are you afraid? Are you like, you're going to get COVID? Well, I got COVID in November and one of my travels because I went to Dallas and I came back sick. But it's part of the process. If you don't take those chances, those opportunities, then, you're missing out. You just have to do it. At least that's how I see it. That's how I see things. And sometimes it comes out, it works out for you. Sometimes it doesn't. And that's where you learn from it and you just keep working on it.
Absolutely. I mean, it's one of those things, and we know it too. I mean, everything we do, it's a daily thing. We both have, other jobs we work during the day, and then we come home and we put all of our free time into this. And we just traveled to Florida, and that marathon of a trip that just ensued, that we did so many things. We're going to PCA. We're going to a bunch of other events around the country this year. So. Yeah, it is. It's time consuming. It's difficult. It's one of those things that you financially have to figure out, and time and all that. But you're right. It's exposure. It gets you out there. You get to see new things and meet new people. Yeah, it pays off in the long run. So it is important, and I agree with you. It can be one of the more challenging pieces to what we all do. I want to hit our news segment really quick.
Sports.
I'm sorry. We already did the sports segment. As we are getting close to the end of the show, our sports segment brought to you by Nova Cigars, our great friends over at Nova, Platinum Nova. Make Nova big. If you head over to novacigars.com, you can use our discount code of SMKTAB15 to save 15% off of your order at novacigar.com. This week I'm going to keep it pretty light. Normally the sports segment is heavily dominated by our friend Mr. Jonathan M. Carney, who is not here. He is at I normally don't express his private stuff that he's doing, but I figured I'd throw some shit. But now I can't remember what he was actually doing. He was going to... Oh, yeah. I think he's at a string concert tonight is what he said. With Allie, his lady friend. Her mom is in town, and so they decided to go out and do something fun with her. So he took the night off, and of course I allowed it. Just kidding. I didn't have a choice. I was just told. He runs the show. All kidding aside, so yeah, normally I riff back with him with sports. I'm gonna kind of keep it a little bit lighter this week. Bruins start Game 3 of the Stanley Cup playoffs tonight in the first round against the Washington Capitals. That'll be an exciting game. Playoff hockey is always a great time. New England Patriots are expected to sign veteran quarterback Brian Hoyer to their roster, which will give them 3 quarterbacks with Cam Newton and Mac Jones. So there's going to be a nice little 3-way battle for the quarterback lineup of who's going to start, who's going to be the backup, who's going to be the third. So that'll be always interesting. The NFL schedule was announced last week, and we talked about actually I don't know if we talked about it last week, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Tom Brady will come to Foxborough in Week 4 in October. In Brady's first game in Foxborough against the Patriots would be very interesting, and that's probably going to be one of the most highly anticipated games of the season. Red Sox continue to be the number 1 team in Major League Baseball. The team that we did not expect to be. I mean, I don't think I expected them to be a horrible team, but I didn't expect them to be as good as they are. I mean, they are right now. They are the number 1 team in Major League Baseball. They're performing very well. I think they have some small issues that they need to work on, but I think they're in good hands with Alex Cora, a Puerto Rican native. Despite maybe some challenges that he has faced in the last year that we won't talk about, I still think he's a great manager. And so far he has shown once again that he can take the reins of the team and lead them to success. Celtics heading into the playoffs as well. More news on that to follow. I'm sure John will have a whole NBA basketball playoffs rundown when he makes his return to the show next week. So definitely stay tuned for that, because if anyone who's watched our show last year during NBA playoff, well, actually it was earlier this year because of the shortened season, you'll know how into it John was getting. So I'm sure he'll have a lot to say on that. So I'm going to keep the sports segment short right there. Cynthia, thank you for coming on the show with us. It has been an absolute blast. I had another question before we go, and that is, what is your expectation, or what are your goals for this year that you want to accomplish before the year is over?
One of that is on my list, and I'm hoping to start doing that this summer, hopefully. So I can take a little break of the travels until September for Atlanta. I would love to accomplish getting the cigar sommelier certification.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah.
I actually.
And yeah. No.
Oh, go ahead. No. Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
It's more of something personal for me. The same way when I did the certification, the Bar Smarts certification with Pinot Ricard. It's just so I can measure what I've learned so far and where I'm at and what I need to, what's more, where I'm at. Of course, during that, you're going to learn, you have to study, and you have to take the testing and everything, obviously, to pass and get certified. Mm-hmm. But it's more like, besides getting the certification, it's more of knowing where I'm at. What more do I need? And you're always learning. You're not going to know everything about cigars ever. It's constantly changing. It's getting more demanding, more creative, and everything else. But mainly, I want to challenge myself. It's more for a personal purpose than anything else. But at the same time, it's nice to see that you have the certification the same way that I had the Bar Smarts. Okay, so she knows her thing. She went through the process. Not everybody believes in that. There's a lot of pros and cons about it. People are, but generally speaking, that would be my goal that I would love to accomplish before the end of the year.
I think that it's an interesting thing that you bring it up, and it's I think it's a good thing for people who want to learn more, and who maybe are not necessarily directly involved in the industry every day, and who you normally wouldn't learn like a lot of people, like you mentioned, some people don't believe it. I think that there's a lot of people who work for companies who've been in the industry for so long that they never really felt they needed it because their involvement, they naturally just picked up and learned on things, because it was part of their job. But there's a lot of people who are not, who still want to know the things that those people know, and there's a lot to learn, and there's nothing wrong with educating yourself, so to speak. And I think it's always a good thing. So, for people who maybe don't have the opportunities for a free education, so to speak, through just their daily work life, it is good. It's something good that you can use to better yourself. You can learn more about your passion, what you care about, and not only just like you said, just for being more educated, or just saying you have the certification, but it's having the knowledge, and you can use that to any power. I mean, knowledge is power at the end of the day. So having that knowledge, you can use it for so many different things, and even just to better yourself. So I feel if that's something you want to do, I think that's great, and that's really and props to you for doing that. I know a couple of people who have done it, and it's a little bit of work, and it's like you say, you have to pass the test, but it's good. It's nice to have. It really is. I know there's different levels you can get it. From I assume you're talking about the Tobacconist University one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I know that there's like a retailer's level. There's, I want to say,
if you're like what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's 3 different levels.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's different levels, so like it depending on what your primary objective is. So it has options for multiple people, and I think that's great. So no, I mean, props to you. I've enjoyed, watching your journey so far, and all the things you've done, and checking out the stuff you're working on, and the places you've gone, and the people you've gotten to meet, and there's so much fun stuff that you have going on. And it's really nice to see. And like I said, you wear many hats. You're all over the place doing so many different things, and that's great. You're definitely keeping yourself busy, which I think is fantastic. And I'm excited to see where you go from here. And I'm definitely gonna I'll be watching from afar, as well as Nicole. And I just want to say thank you for coming on with us. We've had a great time, getting to know you better, and checking out some of the things that are your passions that you love. Nicole, do you have any more questions for Cynthia before we let go?
No, but for our viewers, Cynthia, will you remind them what your hashtags are on Instagram so that people can follow you? I don't know. She was having trouble hearing me. Hashtags. Like what her Instagram handle is.
Oh, yes. If she was saying if you wanted to let anyone know about any of your Instagram hashtags or your handle, where they can find you, just a little self-promotion if you want to let people know where they can find you.
Sure. On Instagram, it's Mujeres, which is MUJERES.y.humos, which is HUMOS. So that's at Mujeres y Humos on Instagram, and on Facebook it's Mujeres y Humos without the dots. So that's where I'm at, and I'm also on Hostess_ with the mostest.
Yeah.
So that's only for cocktails and spirits.
Those are accounts you definitely need to follow. I'm a follower of hers, and she's got some really fun stuff that she's got posted on there. Cynthia, thank you very much for coming on with us. We're gonna end the show there. This has been a great time. We've had a lot of fun. We hope to see you again soon. And for everyone watching and listening at home, thank you for following along with us, and we'll see you next week. Take care.
Thank you. Cheers.